When I said I was pregnant, Mom whispered to Dad, "Get rid of her." They dumped my stuff on the porch. Now they're at my gate, calling grandson. I hit the intercom and a voice answered. They never expected. They've been standing at my gate for 20 minutes. Mom is holding a bouquet of yellow chrysanthemums. Once my favorite flowers, now just flowers. Dad is slouching, his hands tucked into the pockets of an old jacket that I remember from school. They've both aged. Mom's chestnut-colored dyed hair now has gray roots, and Dad's shoulders, which used to seem powerful to me, now slump as if he's carrying an invisible burden. I stand behind the curtain in the living room and watch them through the crack. Wade puts his hand on my shoulder. "Maybe you should open the door after all," he asks quietly. I remain silent. Our 3-year-old daughter, Elsie, is sleeping in the room on the second floor, and another child is moving in my belly, also a girl who is due in 3 weeks. She kicks as if to remind me that life goes on, whether I want it to or not. "Miranda, please," my mother's voice comes through the glass. "We know you're home. We just want to talk." They want to talk. Now, 8 years later. I walk to the intercom by the door. Wade watches silently. I press the button and they both flinch, looking at the camera above the gate. Dad takes a step forward. Mom squeezes the bouquet so hard that the stems crackle. I don't say anything. Instead, I play the recording I saved on my phone and long ago transferred to an old tape recorder connected to the intercom. The quiet, uneven cry of a baby. Then, sniffles, a short coo. Sounds I recorded during the 2 months Sam was alive. Mom gasps. Dad freezes. "That's..." Mom can barely speak. "Is that him?" I press the button again. "You're 8 years late," I say coldly and turn off the intercom. Wade hugs me from behind, careful not to press on my stomach. "Are you sure?" he asks. "Yes." But my hands are shaking. 8 years ago, everything was different. I lived with my parents in their small house on the outskirts of Harlow, where everyone knows everyone else and where reputation matters more than real feelings. My dad still worked at Biggs's auto repair shop, and my mom was a secretary at the Baptist church on Maple Street. I waited tables at the local diner, Silver Spoon, a roadside eatery for truckers, and the occasional tourist who got lost on their way to bigger cities. Cole showed up there. He was tall, smiling, with long hair tied back in a ponytail and an anchor tattoo on his forearm. He was traveling across the country on a motorcycle, saying he was searching for himself. I was young and foolish, and he was free and handsome. We dated for 3 months. He promised to come back after his next trip. When I realized I was pregnant, I called him for a week straight. He answered once, said he would think about it, and disappeared. Forever. I sat on my bed in my childhood bedroom, holding a test with 2 lines on it, not knowing what to do. But finally, I gathered my courage and went downstairs, where my parents were watching the evening news. "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you," I began. Dad turned off the TV. Mom turned around, smiling, but the smile disappeared when she saw the look on my face. "I'm pregnant." The silence was so thick that I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Mom stood up. She walked over to Dad. She leaned over and whispered in his ear, but I could hear every word. "Get rid of it." Dad flinched. He looked at me, then at Mom. He nodded. "Pack your things, Miranda," he said hoarsely. "By morning." I couldn't believe it. I waited for him to laugh, to say he was joking, but he got up and went to the kitchen. Mom stood there with a stony face. "You've brought shame on us," she said. "You've brought shame on God. Don't stay here." The next morning, my things were on the porch in 2 old suitcases and supermarket bags. I called Aunt Joyce, my mother's younger sister, who lived in Cross Rivers, 40 miles away. She didn't ask any questions, she just came and picked me up. Sam was born in July. He was small, with a wrinkled face and thin fingers that gripped my fingers so tightly, as if afraid to let go. I was afraid to hold him. He seemed too fragile, too small for this world. 2 weeks later, the pediatrician said there was something wrong with his heart. A week later, the cardiologist confirmed it. A congenital defect, complicated, requiring surgery, expensive surgery. Without insurance, impossible. I sold everything I had. Aunt Joyce helped too, but there wasn't enough money. Sam lived for 2 months. He died in my arms on a quiet September morning, while birds were singing outside the window and the world seemed unbearably indifferent. I didn't call my parents. I never called them again. Now I didn't even think about it. They had made their choice. I made mine. Aunt Joyce got me through those first terrible months when I didn't know how to breathe without him. She didn't say much. She just was there. Gradually, I came back to life. I got a job as a waitress in a new diner, found a small apartment, and tried not to think. Wade appeared 3 years later. A silent truck driver who ate fried eggs every morning at 7, always left a tip, and never looked me in the eye longer than necessary. One day, he asked if I wanted to go to the lake with him. I was surprised, but I agreed. He was calm, reliable, didn't ask about the past. A year later, we got married. No guests, no parents, just the two of us and witnesses at the town hall. When I got pregnant again, I was more afraid than ever. Every appointment, every ultrasound, I expected them to tell me again that something was wrong. But Elsie was born healthy. I couldn't believe my luck. And now we're expecting another daughter. My parents found out from a neighbor, Mrs. Glennie, who saw Elsie at the playground when I stopped by Harlow on my way from the hospital. Of course, she didn't keep it to herself. A week ago, they came for the first time. They stood at the gate, not daring to ring the bell. I watched from the window. Wade suggested we go out and talk, but I shook my head. Today, they came for the second time, with flowers and a soft toy, a pink teddy bear. Mom begged. Dad was silent, but his eyes were red, and I turned on Sam's crying for them. Now that they're gone, I'm sitting on the couch, holding my stomach. The baby inside is kicking as if to say, "I'm here, Mom, I'm alive." But something inside me hurts. It's not pity. It's not forgiveness. It's something else. Something I'm afraid to name. The phone rings. Unknown number. I don't answer, but it rings again and again. Finally, I pick up. Hello? Miranda? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. It's Lauren. We need to meet. It's about Wade. I look at my husband. He frowns. Who is it? He asks. I don't answer. My heart is pounding so hard that the baby inside me starts to move restlessly. Lauren. The woman on the phone said her name was Lauren. I hang up without answering and look at Wade. He sits next to me, frowning, waiting for an explanation. Who was that? He repeats. I don't know, I say. Some woman named Lauren. She said she needed to talk to me. About you. Wade freezes. For a moment, just a moment, I see something in his eyes. Surprise? Fear? But he quickly blinks and shrugs. No idea who that is, he says. Must be a mistake. I want to believe him, but something in his voice sounds wrong, too indifferent, too quick. The phone rings again. Same number. I don't answer. Wade gets up and goes to the kitchen as if nothing has happened. The next morning, I wake up to Elsie's voice. Wade is already gone. He left early for another flight, leaving a note on the fridge. I'll be back in the evening. Love you. W. I feed my daughter, get her dressed, and take her to daycare. She waves cheerfully at me from the doorway, and I feel my heart tighten. She doesn't know anything about Sam. She doesn't know I had a son. She doesn't know how afraid I am of losing her too. When I return home, my parents' car is parked at the gate again. It's an old gray Honda that my dad bought before I was born. They are sitting inside, waiting. My mom gets out of the car first. She has lost weight. Her face is gaunt with dark circles under her eyes. Dad follows her, holding her by the elbow, as if afraid she will fall. I stop at the entrance and don't get out. I roll down the window. Miranda, Mom says quietly, please, at least listen. I listened 8 years ago, I say, when I begged you for help, when I told you Sam needed surgery, when I called and asked for just a little money. You didn't even answer. Mom staggers. Dad holds her tighter. We didn't know, he says hoarsely. We didn't know it was that serious. You're lying, I say calmly. Aunt Joyce told you. She called. Twice. You just didn't want to hear it. Mom covers her face with her hands. She cries. I was afraid, she whispers. Afraid of what people would say, what they would think at church. I was stupid, Miranda. Stupid and cruel. But I want to make it right. At least a little. You can't make death right, I say, and start the engine. They stand and watch as I drive away. In the rearview mirror, I see Mom sitting on the hood of the car and Dad hugging her shoulders. Something aches inside me, but I don't stop. Sam's cries still haunt me, even after all these years. It's quiet at the diner today. It's the middle of the week, and there aren't many tourists. I pour coffee for old Larry, who's been sitting behind the counter for 2 decades, and try not to think about this morning. He chews apple pie and looks at me over his glasses. You look pale today, girl, he says. Is everything okay? Yes, I reply automatically. It doesn't look like it, but it's none of my business. He goes back to his pie. I'm grateful he doesn't ask any more questions. When the phone rings at the register, I flinch. Silver spoon, I answer. It's Aunt Joyce. I need to talk to you. I sigh. I knew she would call. They came again, I say. I know. Your mom called me this morning, crying. Miranda, I understand why you're angry. But they really have changed. People don't change, Auntie. Sometimes they do, when they lose something important. Your mom is sick. Type 2 diabetes. It's hard for her to walk. She has to take insulin twice a day. She's afraid she won't get to see her granddaughter. And Dad... Aunt Joyce pauses, and I hear her swallow. They found something in Dad's lungs. They're still doing tests, but the doctors aren't hopeful. I'm silent. My stomach aches. The baby is kicking, restless. I press my hand to my side, trying to calm her down. I'm not asking you to forgive them, my aunt continues. Just think about it. They made a mistake, a terrible one. But they are your parents, and they may not have much time left, just like you with this. They were, I correct her. They were my parents. I hang up the phone. My hands are shaking. Larry looks at me from behind his cup. Are you okay, kid? He asks again. I nod, but he can see I'm lying. I work mechanically for the rest of my shift. I pour coffee, take orders, smile at customers. But my thoughts are far away. In my dad's lungs, in my mom's tears, in the way they stood at the gate like beggars. In the evening, Wade comes home later than he promised. I feed Elsie dinner, bathe her, read her a story. When she falls asleep, I hear the door open. He comes in quietly, tired, his face gray. I'm sorry, he says. There was traffic on the highway. I don't answer. I sit on the sofa and look at him. Who is Lauren? I ask. He freezes by the coat rack, jacket in his hands. I don't know, he says. Don't lie to me, Wade. He slowly turns around. He looks at me, and I can see that he knows. Of course he knows. Nobody needs this, he says finally. It's the past. It's over. Whose past? Yours? He sits down in the chair opposite me and rubs his face with his hands. He sits there for so long that I'm about to repeat my question. Finally, he looks up. I was married. Before you. It lasted 3 years. We divorced, and I moved here. I wanted to start over, that's all. I feel something crack inside me. Not from pain, from disbelief. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want it to matter. It was a long time ago. It doesn't mean anything, and it was painful. I don't want to remember. So, if she calls me, I don't know what she wants, he says sharply. We haven't talked in years. Who's Ray? I ask quietly. He turns pale. What? Ray. The one who texts you. Hi. When are we meeting again? Wade is silent. He looks at me, and I can see him searching for words. Finally, he says, he's a friend, an old friend. We sometimes have a beer when I'm passing through his town. Show me your phone, I say. What? Show me your phone. If he's just a friend, show me the messages. He doesn't move. I get up, walk over, and hold out my hand. He looks at my palm, then at me. Miranda, Don't make a big deal out of this. Show me your phone. He sighs, takes his phone out of his pocket, unlocks it, and hands it to me. I scroll through the messages. I find Ray. The conversation is short, cautious. How are you? Everything's okay. Maybe we can meet up. I'm free on Friday, okay. Nothing specific, but something in the tone, in the unspoken words, bothers me. Who is he, I ask. Raymond. We met 5 years ago at a gas station. He's a driver, too. We run into each other sometimes. I hand the phone back. Don't lie to me anymore, Wade, please. He takes the phone and puts it on the table. I'm not lying. I'm just not telling you everything. They're different things. I go to the kitchen. I pour some water and drink slowly. I feel tense inside, ready to explode, but I hold on. For Elsie's sake. For the sake of the baby in my belly. Wade comes up behind me and puts his hands on my shoulders. I'm sorry, he says quietly. I'm just not used to telling everything. I'm used to keeping everything to myself, even when it hurts too. But we're married, I say without turning around. Married people don't keep secrets. I know, he says and kisses my hair. I know. But I feel like he's still hiding something, and that scares me more than I'm willing to admit. The next day, my parents arrive at the diner. I see them through the window. They park across the street, get out, and slowly walk to the entrance. Mom leans on her cane. I didn't know she needed a cane already. Dad holds her arm, but he himself walks with difficulty, as if every step is painful for him. They sit down at a table in the corner. I approach them, notebook in hand, professional smile on my face. What would you like? Mom looks at me, her eyes red. Coffee, Dad says. 2 coffees, and water for Mom, please? I nod, write it down, and go to get their order. When I return, Mom whispers something to Dad. He shakes his head. I put the cups on the table, a glass of water. Anything else? Miranda, Mom says, I know you don't want to see us, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. Every day, every minute. If I could turn back time? You can't, I interrupt. No one can. Dad reaches across the table, trying to take my hand. I pull it away. We want to be part of your life, he says. We want to know our grandchild. We want to help. Please. I look at them. 2 old, broken people. They used to seem like giants to me. Now they're just small, pathetic. When I begged you for help, you were silent, I say quietly but firmly. When Sam was dying, you didn't come. You didn't even come to the funeral. And now you want to be grandparents? No, it doesn't work that way. We were wrong, Dad says, and there's something broken in his voice. We know, but Miranda, I have cancer, lungs, stage 3. I may not live to see the new year. I freeze. My aunt mentioned tests, but not a diagnosis. Mom cries quietly, wiping her tears with a napkin. I'm sorry, I say, but that doesn't change what you did. I go into the kitchen. I hold onto the counter, breathing deeply. I hear someone coming up behind me. I turn around. It's Wade. He arrived early and is standing in the doorway. Are they still here? He asks. I nod. He walks into the room. I follow him. He approaches their table and looms over them. She told you to leave, he says coldly. Leave. Dad stands up, though it's clearly difficult for him. We just want to talk. She doesn't want to talk to you, so please leave. Mom reaches out to me, her eyes pleading. Miranda, please. Wade takes a step forward and Dad takes Mom's hand, helping her up. She grabs her cane, almost falling, but Dad manages to catch her. They walk slowly toward the door, and I see Dad coughing, a hollow, labored cough. Mom turns at the threshold, looking at me one last time. I look away. When they disappear, Wade turns to me. Are you okay? He asks. Yes, I say. But when he hugs me, I feel something trembling inside him too, something he's hiding, something I don't know yet. And suddenly I feel scared. Not of my parents, not of their diagnosis, but from the fact that I don't know my husband as well as I thought I did. In the evening, when Elsie is asleep and I'm lying in bed, the phone rings again. It's Lauren. I pick up the receiver. "What do you want?" I ask. "To meet, to talk. There are things you need to know about Wade." "What things?" "Not over the phone. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the Blue Cup Cafe on Hickory Street. I'll be waiting." She hangs up. I look at the phone, then at Wade, who is sleeping next to me, facing the wall, and I realize I'm going to this meeting, because if he doesn't tell me the truth, I'll find it myself. The Blue Cup Cafe is a small, cozy place on Hickory Street that I've never been to before. Inside, it smells of cinnamon and freshly baked bread. I look around, searching for the unfamiliar woman, and I see her in the corner, by the window, at a table for two. She looks about 40, her dark hair pulled back in a low ponytail with barely noticeable wrinkles around her eyes. She is dressed simply, jeans, a gray sweater. When our eyes meet, she smiles faintly and waves her hand. I walk over and sit down across from her. The waitress comes right over, but I wave her away. I don't want anything to eat or drink. I just want to hear what this woman has to say. "Thank you for coming," Lauren says quietly. "I know this is strange, but I had to warn you." "About what?" I ask, more sharply than I intended. She takes a sip of coffee and looks at me intently. "About Wade. Did he tell you we were married?" "Yes, last night. He said you divorced 3 years ago." 5, she corrects. 5 years ago. But he's right. We were married. 3 years. The worst 3 years of my life. I remain silent, waiting. She sighs, turning the cup in her hands. "Wade isn't what he seems. At first, he was perfect. Calm, reliable, caring. But then, he started drinking. At first, just a little, after work, then more, then every day. And when he drank, he became someone else." "Someone else how?" I ask, even though my heart is already beating faster. "Aggressive. He yelled, he pushed. Once he hit me so hard that I fell and split my lip. He cried afterwards, apologized, promised it would never happen again, but there was always a next time. I feel my hands clenching into fists under the table. Wade never raised a hand to me. He never shouted. He's calm, almost silent." "Why are you telling me this?" I ask. "Because I heard he got married again, that you have children, and I can't just keep quiet. I know what he's capable of. If he starts drinking again—" "He doesn't drink," I interrupt. "I've never seen him drunk." Lauren smiles sadly. "Neither have I. At first, he hides it well. But then—" She falls silent, staring out the window. There's something else. Raymond Tallis. He's not just Wade's friend. They were together. When we were married, Wade cheated on me with him. I found their correspondence and asked him about it. He didn't deny it. He said it didn't mean anything, that he loved me. But I couldn't stay. I sit, motionless. Lauren's words echo in my head, but they don't form a coherent whole. Wade and Ray. Together. It can't be. "You're lying," I say quietly. "I wish I was," she says, "but I'm not. I can show you the old messages if you want. I saved copies, just in case." She takes out her phone, scrolls through it, and hands it to me. I look at the screen. Screenshots of messages. The name is Wade. The number is the same as the one I have in my phone now. The messages are short but eloquent. "I miss you. When will we see each other?" She doesn't know, it's okay. "I love you." I push the phone away. "It could have been anyone," I say, though my voice is trembling. "You could have faked it." "I could have," Lauren agrees. "But why? What would I get out of it? I moved, started a new life. I don't need Wade. I need you to know the truth, so you don't repeat my mistakes." She gets up and puts a few bills on the table for the coffee. "If you don't believe me, ask him. Look him in the eye and ask him about Raymond, about what happened between them. And if he denies it, ask to meet with Ray together. Let's see if he agrees." She leaves, leaving me alone with thoughts that are tearing my head apart. I return home in a daze. Elsie meets me at the door, pulls me by the hand, tells me something about the garden. I nod, smile, but hear nothing. Wade is gone. On another flight. He'll be back in the evening. I feed Elsie, play with her, then put her to bed. I sit on the sofa, staring at the ceiling. My belly is heavy. The baby inside is kicking. 2 daughters, a family, everything I dreamed of after Sam. And now it's all in jeopardy. When Wade comes home, it's late. I'm awake, sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea. He comes in and looks at me in surprise. "You're not asleep yet?" he asks. "I need to talk to you," I say. He sits down across from me and waits. I take a deep breath. "I saw Lauren today." His face freezes. "Why?" "She wanted to talk. She told me things about you, about how you drank, beat her, cheated on her with Raymond." Wade is silent. He looks at me, and I can't read his expression. Finally, he gets up, goes to the sink, pours himself some water, and drinks slowly. "She's lying," he says without turning around. "Why would she lie?" "Because she's crazy," he says sharply, turning around. "Because she can't accept that I left, that I'm happy without her. She showed me the messages. From you to Ray, fake. Your number, your name. Miranda." He comes over and takes my hands. "Listen to me. I never hit Lauren. I never drank like she says. I never cheated on her with Ray or anyone else. We broke up because she wanted children and we couldn't have them. The doctors said it was genetic incompatibility. She couldn't accept it. She blamed me. She said I ruined her life. When I moved away and started a new life, she couldn't let it go. And now, when she heard that I had children with you, she just couldn't take it. She wants to destroy what I've built. Understand? It's revenge. Nothing more." I look at him. His eyes are sincere, his voice firm. But something inside me still doubts. "Then meet with Ray, in front of me. Let him tell you that there was nothing between you." Wade lets go of my hands. Why? To prove something to a crazy woman. To prove something to me. He looks at me for a long time. Then he nods. "Okay, I'll arrange it. But when he tells you the truth, promise me you'll never listen to Lauren again." "I promise," I say. But even as he hugs me, I feel something is wrong. The next week, I give birth to Teresa, small with dark fluffy hair and strong lungs. She cries so loudly that the nurses laugh. Wade holds her gently, as if afraid of breaking her, and looks at her with such tenderness that I almost forget my doubts. Almost. The first days at home are chaotic. Teresa feeds every 2 hours. Elsie is jealous. Wade tries to help, but he is often away at work. I'm tired, exhausted, but happy. At night, when I feed Teresa, I look at her tiny face and think, she's alive. She's healthy. That's all that matters. But sometimes, Wade disappears for a long time. He says it's work, that he has flights. But when I call, he doesn't always answer. And when he does answer, I hear noise, voices, but he can't explain where he is. One evening, when Teresa is asleep and Elsie is playing with her dolls, the phone rings. An unknown number. I hesitate, but pick up the phone. "Hello? Miranda Cable?" A man's voice, formal, cold. "Yes. This is Detective Harrison. I need to talk to you about your husband." I freeze. "What happened?" "Not over the phone. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning at 10? Yes, I can. What about Wade? Is he okay?" "He's fine, but we need to talk. See you tomorrow, Mrs. Cable." He hangs up. I stand there with the phone in my hand, my heart pounding so hard that the girls seem to hear it too. When Wade comes home that evening, I don't tell him about the call. I just watch him play with Elsie, carefully picking up Teresa, and I try to figure out who he really is. The man I love? Or a stranger? I don't know. The next morning, I leave the girls with Aunt Joyce and drive to the police station. Detective Harrison meets me in a small office, an elderly man with a gray mustache and tired eyes. "Thank you for coming," he says, gesturing for me to sit down. "What did you want to talk about?" I ask, clutching my bag on my lap. About your husband, Wade Cable. He's a truck driver, right? Yes. We're investigating a series of cargo thefts on the route he drives. Nothing concrete yet, but his name has come up several times in connection with Raymond Tallis. Are you familiar with that name? My stomach clenches. Yes. Wade says he's his friend. Friend, the detective repeats, writing something down. Raymond Tallis has a criminal record, fraud, embezzlement. He's currently under investigation. We suspect he's not working alone. Your husband may be involved. That's impossible, I say, though my voice sounds strange. Wade is an honest man. Maybe, says the detective, but we have to check. If he contacts you, if anything seems strange, call me. Here's my card. He hands me his business card. I take it, get up, and head for the exit. When I step outside, my legs can barely hold me up. Raymond Tallis, a con man, a criminal past, and Wade is his friend. More than a friend? I get in the car and look at my phone. Wade has sent a message. How are you? I miss you. I'll be back in the evening. I don't reply. Instead, I call Lauren. She answers on the second ring. Miranda? You were telling the truth, I say quietly. About Ray, about everything. She is silent for a moment. I'm sorry, she finally says. I'm really sorry. What should I do? Run, she says simply, before it's too late. I hang up the phone. I sit in my car, looking at the place where I just was, and I realize that the life I've worked so hard to build after Sam is falling apart. In the evening, when I return home, my parents are standing at the gate. Aunt Joyce is with them. Mom is crying, Dad is holding her, his face gray, his eyes sunken. He's lost weight. A lot of weight. Miranda, Aunt Joyce says, coming up to me, your dad, he's in stage 3. The doctors say he has 6 months, maybe less. He wants to see his granddaughter, at least once. I look at them, at my mom who is crying, at my dad, who can barely stand, at my aunt who is pleading with her eyes. Okay, I say finally, come in. Mom gasps for air. Dad nods weakly. They come inside slowly, as if they can't believe it. I lead them to the living room where Elsie is playing and Teresa is sleeping in her cradle. Mom comes over, looks at Teresa, and the tears flow even harder. Dad sits down on the sofa and looks at Elsie. She looks at him with curiosity. Who are you? She asks. Dad pauses, swallows. I'm your grandfather. Elsie tilts her head. I have a grandfather? Yes, I say quietly. Now you do. And at that moment, the phone rings. Another unknown number. I pick up the receiver and go to the kitchen. Hello? Mrs. Cable? This is Detective Harrison again. Your husband has just been arrested. We need you to come in, now. I look at my parents, at my children, at my life falling apart. I'll be there, I say and hang up. The precinct looks different at night, colder, emptier. I park near the entrance and get out of the car. My hands are shaking as I open the door. Detective Harrison is waiting for me in the same office as this morning, only now he looks even more tired. Thank you for coming so quickly, he says. Please sit down. I sit on the edge of the chair, clutching my bag. Where's Wade? What happened? Your husband is in the interrogation room right now. We arrested him a few hours ago at the entrance to the city, along with Raymond Tallis. We found goods in the truck that don't match the invoices, electronics worth about $30,000. Stolen. I feel the blood drain from my face. This is a mistake. Wade is not a thief. Maybe. The detective opens the folder and looks at the documents. But Raymond Tallis is a thief, and your husband has been driving the same route with him for the last 2 years. Coincidences happen, but not like this. What does Wade say? He says he didn't know about the goods. That Raymond asked for a ride, and he agreed. But, Mrs. Cable, your husband had financial problems 2 years ago, large debts. Suddenly, they disappeared. Where did the money come from? I remain silent. I don't know the answer. Can I talk to him? I finally ask. The detective hesitates, then nods. 15 minutes. No more. He leads me down the hall to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Wade is sitting with his head bowed, his hands on the table. When I enter, he looks up, his eyes red and tired. "Miranda," he says hoarsely. "I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry." I sit down opposite him. The detective leaves, closing the door behind him. "Tell me the truth," I say quietly. "The whole truth, now." Wade rubs his face with his hands and sighs deeply. Then he tells me, "When Lauren and I broke up, she left me with a bunch of debt, credit cards, loans, all in my name. She was spending and I didn't notice. When we broke up, it turned out I owed about $40,000. I tried to pay it off, but my salary wasn't enough. Then I met Ray. He offered me an easy way to make money. Transport goods, no questions asked. I refused at first. But then I met you. I wanted to start a new life. I needed money. Fast. I agreed to do it a few times, just transport. I didn't know what I was transporting. I didn't want to know." "But you knew it was illegal," I say. He nods. "I knew, and that's the worst part. I told myself it was temporary, that I would stop after paying off my debts. And I did stop, 2 years ago, for good. Recently, Ray called and said he had a problem and asked for a ride. I couldn't say no. He helped me back then. I didn't know what he was carrying, I swear. I look at him. At the face I know by heart. At the hands that held my daughters. At the man I thought I knew. What about Lauren? She said you beat her. Cheated on her with Ray." Wade raises his head sharply. "No, never. I never laid a hand on her. I never cheated on her. Ray is just an acquaintance who helped me out with money. Lauren made it all up because she can't accept that I'm happy without her. That's the truth, that I have children. She couldn't get pregnant. The doctors said we were incompatible. It broke her. She blamed me. And now she's taking revenge because we found happiness and she didn't. I want to believe. Every fiber of my being wants to believe." "What happens next?" I ask. "I don't know. The detective says Ray confessed. He said I knew about the goods. But that's a lie. The lawyer said they might give me probation if I cooperate with the investigation, or real prison if they believe Ray." I'm silent. I don't know what to say. "Miranda." He reaches across the table and takes my hand. "If you want to leave, I'll understand. You and the girls deserve better. Someone who won't make the same mistakes if you want." I look at our hands. His is big and rough from work. Mine is small and tired. "I need to think," I finally say. He nods and lets go of my hand. I get up and walk to the door. I turn around at the threshold. "Do you really love me?" I ask. "More than anything in the world," he says, and I hear the truth in his voice. But the truth isn't enough. Not always. When I get home, it's already 3 a.m. My parents are gone. Aunt Joyce is sleeping on the couch. The girls are asleep in their beds. I quietly go into Elsie's room and look at her. Then I go to Teresa. She's sleeping, her fists clenched, her lips moving in her sleep. I sit down next to her, look at her, and cry, quietly, so as not to wake her. The next morning, my mother calls. Her voice is panicked. "Miranda, your dad is in the hospital. He got sick during the night. Please come, quickly." I leave the girls with Aunt Joyce and go to the hospital. The room is on the 3rd floor, number 308. Mom is sitting by the bed, holding Dad's hand. He is hooked up to IVs. The monitor shows his heartbeat. Weak, uneven. "What happened?" I ask as I approach. "A hemorrhage," Mom says, without taking her eyes off Dad. "The doctor says the cancer has spread. To his brain, She can't finish. She's crying. I sit down on the other side of the bed and look at Dad. His face is yellow. His eyes are closed. His breathing is heavy. He looks small in this bed. Broken. "Mom," I say quietly, "why did you really kick me out back then?" She lifts her head and looks at me through her tears. "Because I was afraid," she says. "Afraid of what people would say, what they would think at church. Pastor Wilkins always talked about sin, about shame. I didn't want to be that mother whose daughter... She pauses, swallows. I was stupid, cruel. Your dad was against it. He wanted to support you, but I insisted. I told him, either she leaves or I do. He chose me, and he carried that guilt every day, every minute. I look at Dad. He doesn't move. When did Sam die? I ask. Why didn't you come? Why didn't you help? Mom digs her hands into her hands. Because I couldn't. I couldn't look you in the eye. I couldn't admit that we could have saved him, that our money could have saved him, but we didn't give it. I didn't give it. Your dad wanted to. He even started saving up, but I stopped him. I said it was your responsibility, your choice, your consequences. And then when Aunt Joyce called and said Sam had died, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't believe what I had become. I couldn't live with myself. But it was too late, and I didn't know how to fix it. I'm crying. For the first time in 8 years, I'm crying about Sam in front of someone. Mom reaches out to me, hugs me, and we cry together. Two broken women who lost so much because of fear and pride. Dad suddenly stirs. His eyes open, difficult, slowly. He looks at us and a faint smile appears on his face. Miranda, he whispers. I take his hand. I'm here, Dad. I'm sorry, he says, his voice barely audible. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. For not stopping her. For not saving Sam. Dad, don't. I have to, he interrupts. I have to say it. I loved you. I always loved you. But I was weak. I was afraid of losing her. And I lost you. The worst deal of my life. Mom cries louder. Dad looks at her. Brenda, I'm sorry, he says. But it's true. I should have protected our daughter. Not you. Not the church. Not my reputation. Her and our grandson. And I didn't. That's my sin. Mine. He closes his eyes. His breathing becomes heavier. The monitor beeps alarmingly. Nurses rush in and push us out of the room. We stand in the hallway waiting. Mom prays, her hands folded, her lips whispering words I can't hear. 20 minutes later, the doctor comes out. He's stable, she says, but weak, very weak. If you want to say something to him, do it quickly. There isn't much time. We return to the room. Dad is breathing through an oxygen mask, his eyes half open. Dad, I say, leaning over, do you want to see Teresa and Elsie? He nods weakly. I look at Mom. I'll bring them, I say, today. She thanks me with a look. When I return home, Aunt Joyce is feeding Teresa, and Elsie is watching cartoons. I tell her about Grandpa, that he's sick, that he wants to see them. Elsie looks at me with her big eyes. The three of us drive to the hospital. Elsie holds my hand. I carry Teresa in her car seat. Dad is waiting in the room. Mom helps him sit down, puts pillows under him. He looks at the girls, and his eyes fill with tears. Come here, he whispers. Elsie approaches boldly and looks at him. Hi, Grandpa, she says. Hi, sweetheart, he says. You're so beautiful, just like your mom. Elsie smiles. I lift Teresa up, and Dad gently touches her cheek. She looks like you, he says quietly. The same little nose. I nod. Yes, I say. She does. Dad looks at me. Take care of them, he says. Don't make my mistakes. Love them more than fear, more than pride, more than anything. I promise, I say. He smiles and closes his eyes. We sit with him for another hour while he sleeps. Then I drive the girls home. In the evening, Wade calls. He has been released on his own recognizance. The case will go to trial in a month. The lawyer says it's 50-50. Can I come home? He asks. I look at the girls. Elsie is asleep, hugging her doll. Teresa is smiling in her sleep. Yes, I say, come home. When he arrives, we sit in the kitchen. He talks about the lawyer, the court, how Ray confessed to everything but is trying to implicate him. I listen without interrupting. Miranda, he finally says, I understand if you want a divorce. I can't promise that everything will be okay. Maybe I'll go to prison. Maybe our life is broken, but I want you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. Never. I look at him, at his tired face, his trembling hands. I don't want a divorce, I say. I want the truth, always. No secrets, no lies, even if the truth hurts. I promise, he says. And one more thing, I add. If you go to prison, I'll wait for you. Not because you deserve it, but because our girls deserve a dad, even an imperfect one. He cries. So do I. We sit in the kitchen, holding hands, and I realize that life isn't perfect. People make mistakes. Parents let us down. Men keep secrets. But forgiveness isn't about forgetting. Forgiveness is about choosing love, even when it hurts. A week later, Dad dies. Quietly in his sleep, with Mom by his side. The funeral is small, the church, a few acquaintances, us. Elsie throws a flower on the coffin and asks if Grandpa is in heaven now. I say yes, I want to believe that he is. After the funeral, my mother comes up to me. Thank you, she says, for letting him see the girls, for coming. I haven't forgiven him, I say honestly. Not yet, but I'm trying. She nods. That's all I can ask for. We stand together, looking at the grave. Two women who have lost so much. Two women trying to find their way back to each other. In the evening, when the girls are asleep, I sit with Wade on the porch. The stars are bright. The night is quiet. What happens next? He asks. I don't know, I say, but we'll find out, together. He takes my hand. I don't pull away, because I've made a choice of love, even when it's scary, even when it's unknown, even when it hurts. The phone rings, unknown number. I hesitate, then answer. Hello? Miranda Cable? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes. This is Holy Cross Hospital. Your mother, Brenda Hillman, has just been admitted. Heart attack. You need to come immediately. A hospital at night is a world unto itself. Bright lights, the smell of antiseptic, the quiet footsteps of nurses in the corridors. I run to the emergency room, my heart pounding so hard it's hard to breathe. Wade runs after me. He came with me without asking, just got in the car. Aunt Joyce stayed with the girls. Pastor Wilkins is sitting outside the intensive care unit, the same one from the church where my mother worked. He stands up when he sees me. Miranda, he says quietly. The doctors are with her now. A heart attack, a bad one. She's still alive, but he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. I sit down on a chair, holding onto the back so I don't fall. Wade sits down next to me and puts his hand on my knee. We wait. 15 minutes, 30, an hour. Finally, the doctor comes out, a young woman in a green coat, looking tired. Are you related to Brenda Hillman? I stand up. I'm her daughter. She's stable. We've done everything we can, but the next 24 hours are critical. She's unconscious, but you can go in. For a few minutes, I go into the intensive care unit. Mom is lying on a bed connected to a multitude of tubes and wires. Her face is white, her lips blue. She looks so small, so fragile. I approach her and take her hand, cold, lifeless. Mom, I whisper, I'm here. Hang in there. Please. She doesn't respond. The monitor shows her heartbeat, weak but steady. I sit with her for 5 minutes until the nurse tells me I have to leave. For the next 24 hours, I live at the hospital. Wade brings the girls. Elsie asks why Grandma is sleeping so long. Teresa cries, sensing my anxiety. Aunt Joyce arrives, sits with me, holds my hand. On the second day, Mom wakes up. She is weak, barely breathing, but alive. When I enter the room, she looks at me and cries. Miranda, she whispers, I'm sorry for everything. I sit down by the bed. Not now, Mom, rest. No, she says, squeezing my hand. I have to. I was afraid I wouldn't make it in time, that I would die without saying it. I love you. I always have. Even when I kicked you out, even when I was afraid to admit my mistake, I love you and I'm sorry. So sorry. I cry. I lean over and hug her gently, careful not to touch the tubes. I love you too, Mom, I say, and I'm trying to forgive you. I really am. She smiles through her tears. That's all I can ask for. Mom is discharged in a week. She's weak and needs care, but she's alive. I take her home with me. Wade helps set up a room for her on the first floor. She can't climb the stairs. Elsie is thrilled to have her grandmother living with us now. Teresa is too young to understand yet, but she smiles when her mother picks her up. A month later, Wade's case goes to trial. I sit in the courtroom holding his hand. The lawyer is good. He speaks convincingly. Raymond Tallis finally admits that Wade didn't know about the stolen goods, that he just gave him a ride as a friend. The prosecutor still insists on punishment. Complicity, unintentional, but still. The judge, an elderly woman with gray hair and a stern face, listens to both sides. Then she looks at Wade. Mr. Cable, do you admit that you participated in illegal activities 2 years ago? Wade stands up. Yes, Your Honor. I participated in the transportation of stolen goods. I didn't know exactly what I was transporting, but I suspected. It was a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. But I stopped. 2 years ago, and never again. Why did you agree to give Mr. Tallis a ride this time? Because he helped me back then, when I was drowning in debt. I felt I owed him, but I didn't know he was carrying stolen goods. If I had known, I wouldn't have agreed. The judge nods and writes something down. Do you have a family, Mr. Cable? Yes, Your Honor, a wife and 2 children, 3 years and 3 months old. Are they dependent on you? Yes, I'm the sole breadwinner. The judge looks at me. I stand up when she gestures for me to approach. Mrs. Cable, do you support your husband? Yes, I say. He made a mistake, but he's a good man, a good father. I believe he will never do anything like this again. The judge nods. She announces a recess. We wait for an hour. When the judge returns, her face is neutral. Mr. Cable, the court finds you guilty of aiding and abetting illegal activity. Considering your lack of prior convictions, the presence of your family, and your cooperation with the investigation, the court sentences you to 3 years probation and 200 hours of community service. You are not allowed to leave the state without the court's permission. Violation of the terms of your probation will result in actual imprisonment. Wade nods, his eyes closed. I put my arm around his shoulders. I feel the weight lift off my shoulders. Probation, not prison. And we'll get through this. After the trial, Wade gets a job at a gas station by the highway, the same one where we met. The pay is less than driving a truck, but it's steady. He works from morning to night, comes home tired, but tries to help with the girls. We don't talk about the trial, about Ray, about the past. We just live, day by day. Mom is gradually recovering. She helps with the girls, cooks dinner, cleans, even though I tell her not to overexert herself. One evening, when the girls are asleep, we sit in the kitchen with tea. Thank you, she says quietly, for taking me in, for giving me a chance. You're my mom, I say. Where would you go? She smiles sadly. To a shelter, I guess, or to Aunt Joyce's, but being here, with you, with the girls, it's more than I deserve. Nobody's perfect, Mom, I say. Neither you, nor me, nor Wade. We all make mistakes. The question is whether we try to fix them. She takes my hand. I'll try, every day, for the rest of my life. 6 months pass. Life falls into a rhythm. Work at the diner, the girls, Mom, Wade. The everyday life that once seemed boring now feels like a gift, because I know it could disappear at any moment. One day, a young woman walks into the diner, 20 years old, maybe younger. She's pregnant with a big belly, wearing a worn jacket and jeans. Her hair is unwashed, dark circles under her eyes. She sits in the corner, staring out the window. I approach her with the menu. What would you like? Coffee, she says quietly. And water, please. I bring her order. She drinks her coffee greedily, as if she hasn't had any in a long time. When I come back, she looks at me. Have you been working here long? She asks. About 8 years, I say. Do you like this job? I smile. Sometimes, and sometimes I want to run away from here as far as I can. But that's life. It's not always what we want it to be. She nods, looking at her belly. I ran away, she says suddenly. From home. My parents wanted me to have an abortion, but I can't. I don't want to. So I left. I don't know where. I'm just driving. I sit down across from her without asking permission. How old are you? 19. And the baby? I'm due in a month. It's a boy. I already know I'm going to name him Jacob. I look at her, and suddenly I see myself. 8 years ago. Young, scared, alone. Do you have any money? A place to stay? She shakes her head. A little money. I sleep in my car, but it broke down yesterday. I don't know what to do. I think for a moment. Then I take out my phone and dial Aunt Joyce's number. Auntie, it's me. I have a girl here who needs help. She's pregnant, alone, and has no money. Can you take her in for a few days? My aunt doesn't hesitate. Of course, bring her over. I look at the girl. My aunt will take you in. She'll give you a room, food. She'll help you find a doctor. No strings attached. Just help. The girl looks at me, her eyes filling with tears. Why? Why are you doing this? Because I was in your place once and someone did the same for me, I say, and because no one should have to go through this alone. She cries, and I hand her a tissue. When my shift ends, I drive her to Aunt Joyce's. They meet at the doorstep. My aunt hugs the girl, and I know she's safe. In the evening, I return home. Wade is playing with Elsie on the floor. Teresa is sitting on the rug chewing on a toy. Mom is making dinner, humming something quietly. I stand in the doorway looking at this picture and feel something warm in my chest. Not happiness, not quite, but something close. Peace, acceptance, hope. In the evening, when everyone is asleep, I go to the dresser and open the top drawer. There is a photo of Sam. Small, crumpled, but precious. I look at him, at his tiny face, and whisper, I haven't forgotten you, son. I will never forget you. But I have learned to live without you. And I'm sorry that I tormented us both for so long. I am sorry that I could not save you. But I hope you know that I loved you. I still love you. I put the photo on the dresser, not in the drawer, but in plain sight, next to the photo of Elsie and Teresa, my past and my present, together. A few more months pass. Mom goes to see the cardiologist. The doctor says she's on the mend, but she needs to be careful. She nods, listens, and then says to me, I want to volunteer at the church, help young mothers, those in need, if the pastor allows it. I look at her in surprise. Are you sure? Yes, she says. I can't fix what I did to you, but I can help others, so they don't make my mistakes. Pastor Wilkins agrees. Mom starts working at the church's outreach center, handing out food, helping with paperwork, talking to those who need support. She comes home tired, but with a smile. I helped a girl today, she says one evening. She's pregnant. Her parents kicked her out. I gave her the address of a shelter and helped her make a doctor's appointment. She cried and thanked me, and I thought maybe God is giving me a chance to make things right, at least a little. I hug her. You're doing great, Mom. Wade finishes his community service in a year. The judges are satisfied. He worked diligently and didn't miss a single day. He still has 2 years left on his probation, but he can breathe easier now. One evening, he comes home with a bouquet of flowers. Cheap ones from the gas station, but flowers nonetheless. What for? I ask, smiling. Just because, he says. Because you stayed. Because you believed in me. Because you're the strongest person I know. I take the flowers and kiss him. We did it, I say, together. Yes, he says, together. One day, the girl I took to Aunt Joyce's comes back to the diner, but now she's different. Clean, smiling with a baby in her arms. Do you remember me? She asks. Of course, I say. Jacob? She nods, pointing to the boy, rosy-cheeked with big eyes. He's healthy. I'm healthy. Your aunt helped me find a job, an apartment. I'm going back to school next year. I want to be a nurse. And it's all thanks to you. Not thanks to me, I say. Thanks to you. You made a choice, a difficult one, but the right one. She smiles and kisses her son on the forehead. How are you doing? She asks. Everything. Life. I look out the window. The sun is setting. The sky is turning orange and pink. In the parking lot, Wade fills a car, smiling at a customer. At home, Mom reads to Elsie. Teresa stacks blocks. A simple life. Day by day, I say. The girl nods. We watch the sunset, and I feel life moving on. Not perfect, not painless, but real. That evening, I come home. Wade meets me at the door and hugs me. The girls are asleep. Mom watches TV. We sit on the porch under the stars. Do you think Sam sees us? Wade whispers. I look up. I don't know, but I want to believe he knows I haven't forgotten him, that I'm trying to be better. For him, the girls, all of us. Wade kisses my temple. You're already better, he says. The best. I smile and lean into him. For the first time in years, I feel at home, not because it's perfect, but because it's mine. My family, my life, my story. Stories don't end. They go on, day after day. Pain and joy, mistakes and forgiveness, a past that clings and a future not yet here. Always hope. That's what matters.